Good morning. This is the Innovation Conversation. I'm Kevin Coop.
And I'm Tom Furphy.
So, Tom, I've been reading a bunch of articles lately on the notion of build or buy, which in some ways seems a little overly simplistic because I'm not sure people are buying as much as they're renting for long periods of time. And there's a part of me that thinks with things costing so much, how many people are actually building their own technology projects anyway? I mean, you're immersed in this world. Is It seems to me there's a lot more examples of companies in the retail business that are latching onto turnkey solutions that they actually not only don't they have to build them themselves, they try not to worry about them very much once they've bought in.
So I think you're definitely seeing more openness to buying. And throughout this, when we talk about buying, it's buy slash rent, right? Because particularly in technology, a lot of it is through SaaS, right? Where you're paying a regular fee or an ongoing, recurring fee for the technology. I think you're seeing a lot more retailers now open to buying versus building. Um, there's still, I would argue there's still probably way too much of a build mentality out there. You've got, historically in retail, it's always been a little bit of a specialized industry. And, we've had these massive IT organizations that, build a lot of their capabilities from the ground up. It's kind of what they've done. It's kind of, how they're wired. And it's what they do. So I think frankly, you still see too much of that, but you're starting to see a little bit more buying nowadays. And this is not talking about like Instacart buying, right? I mean, Instacart's the ultimate buy, right? I'm not gonna do it at all. I'm not gonna build any of this capability myself. I'm just gonna let you come in, to my stores and do it for me. So I guess, that's buy, but you're giving up a lot when you buy that way.
Well, and it seems to me as I've just been reading various articles about this, that one of the interesting things, I mean, I read this one article where they're talking about the things you have to consider are cost, control, connectivity, and maintenance, all of which seem important to me, but at no point do they really talk about the notion of brand equity. That one of the things, if you're going to buy, maybe it makes sense not to buy one solution, but buy components, right? It's like building, if you're building back in the old days before we streamed, right? Build a stereo system.
Yep.
Some people would go to, Crazy Eddie's and just buy the package, come in, plug it in, and they were done. Some people knew enough to be able to go to a really good electronics store and buy this turntable, those speakers, this
Right.
woofer, this subwoofer, whatever. I don't know that much about this stuff. And but
Well,
and
then effectively they will have built it.
they will have built it because they've assembled it themselves.
Right.
Is that the kind of the model that retailers ought to be thinking about as they move, as they have to? I mean, they simply have to adopt more technology if they're going to be relevant going forward.
So I think it comes down, I think you need to build your customer experience, right? So identify who your customer is, how you're going to serve them, how you're going to be, uniquely and defensively differentiated to them. And you need to build that. You need to construct that experience in a way that, can be agile, in a way that can really hit the mark for your customers, in the way that you can keep innovating and moving them to a forward place. That does not mean you build all of the components, though, that sit underneath that and support that, right? Very few companies can do that. Yeah, Amazon is an example of a company that has massive know-how, has a massive cost of capital, intellectual, frankly, advantage over many competitors. And they're innovating far enough in advance that there aren't a lot of technologies out there that can help them,
Yeah,
innovate.
there was no off-the-shelf choice for Amazon Go.
No, they went and did it themselves. They had conviction and where they wanted to go, and they were not afraid at all, and still aren't afraid to, as Jeff would say, go down dark alleys, right? And not quite know what's down there, but know if you go down and innovate, you can find the light and really delight your customers. My advice to any retailer, um, is to, again, identify, what is that unique customer value proposition that you can build, and then go determine within that, okay, what can I what can I piece together, efficiently, from existing technologies that may exist out there, where I don't have to recreate the wheel or recreate those capabilities, but I can deploy them in a way that uniquely serves my customer. Let's go find those, put those together. It's cheaper, it's faster, and ultimately, if you do it right, it's more agile, right? You can adapt more easily, as you go, because you have these pieces put together, almost like Legos, put together that can be interchangeable, as you look to evolve your offering.
But you have to have a vision for what that ultimate and differentiated customer experience
Absolutely.
is. If you don't have that vision, and you're just saying
Toast.
like,
Yeah.
well, I got to be in e-commerce because everybody tells me I got to be in e-commerce,
Yeah.
then you might as well go with a turnkey solution and not worry about it because you're not really committed to it anyway.
Yeah. If you're strictly building from the company out to be on par with what you see as best practices or have to haves out there, you're not going to go anywhere, right? You need to work from the customer backward. You need to understand where the customer is today. How can I effectively serve that customer today? And then as I learn from that customer and I develop that tighter relationship with the customer where I'm getting data and I'm understanding what's working, what's not working, now I can, as I have that, now I can start to think about where do I want to take the customer, right? What are some meta trends that are out there? What are ways that I think, I can uniquely bring that customer to a new place, that's going to make their lives easier? Let's think about what that is. And I'm going to go build that experience, and I'm going to put together where technologies exist. I'm going to put together best of breed technologies. And maybe occasionally you will find that there isn't a technology for a piece that I need. And okay, then go build that. That's fine.
I mean, the other metaphor might be, building or buying a house, right? I mean, if you build your own house, you sort of know all the things you want. If you think of yourself as being the customer, so you can build it custom. It's probably going to take you longer than you want. It's almost always going to take longer than you want. And you're going to spend more money than you want to spend. That's just the way these things work. But you're going to get the house you want if you buy a house. You get it faster, right? And you're going to get it faster. But it seems to me, again, maybe I'm stretching the metaphor too far. I think a lot of people are buying the house only to find out what they're really doing is they're renting the house, and somebody else actually owns the basement and the foundation,
Right.
right? And so, again, and I don't want to get
And
into
that's no good.
right, and that's not good because suddenly you haven't gotten near, you're in a really bad place. And if at some point, and you're not controlling anything at
Well,
that
if you work with a third party service that owns the customer relationship,
point.
then you've bought the house on their foundation,
Right.
right? And you're not going to have a whole lot of control, over what happens with that house, going forward, who can visit that house, and location is everything, right? You can't change that. But if you, but if you buy a house and you get the deed and you have the foundation and everything, you can buy that quickly. Then you can do a remodel. You can paint. You can change the windows, right? You can do a lot of things to the house, to make it your own. And you can do that fast, and in many cases, fairly inexpensively, or at least you can make that determination as you go and spend according to your budget.
And the other piece of it is, and maybe I'm arguing the other side, is that inevitably, if you're working with outside contractors, their speed of innovation is almost certainly going to be faster than your own, right?
Oh
Because
yeah, I mean the guy that, yeah.
right, that's what they do. And
Well,
so
yeah, somebody comes in and does hardwood floors in your house, and they do hardwood floors for a living. They're going to be really good at ripping up your old ones, putting in your new ones, and making them look pretty awesome.
right.
Yeah, you could take a course on building hardwood floors or installing hardwood floors, and you could, maybe even you've done that, you did that 20 years ago, or maybe you used to install carpet. And you're like, well, it's still a floor. How hard can it be? And then you go to do hardwood floors. You're not going to be as good at it as the hardwood floor guy, and you're probably going to spend almost as much, and you're certainly going to take longer,
Right.
and you're probably going to have problems with them down the road.
Yes. You're going to slip with the sander at some point.
Totally.
But that's actually, and so it's a really hard decision.
It is.
I guess at the end of the day, where it really comes down is if you don't understand the end point, right? And you're
Exactly.
and I love it. If you're working customer out, you're going to have, if you're working company out, you've got problems. If you're working customer back, it tends to at least focus the mind a little
It does. It does. It makes the decisions and trade-offs of what you're, this build versus buy and how to configure things. It makes it a lot clearer. And you can make the decisions a lot faster too.
So before we wrap this up, the interesting thing about this conversation is this is not the only time we're going to have this conversation this week. That tomorrow, you and I are going to try something new. We're going to go on Clubhouse, which has been getting a lot of press. Most of it good, just a little bit of negative because there's a Chinese back end. So you and I have committed not to share any classified information on Clubhouse. But I'm fascinated by this because the idea of being able to open it up and say to morning news readers, hey, come join, be part of the innovation conversation.
Make it a conversation that includes more than just you and I.
Which we do. You and I have done in various companies and meetings over the years. But the idea, I mean, it's one more way in which technology is just, it's a cliche. Technology is changing everything, right? And we're now in this way.
Well, and video's been, I think we've all found over the last year, like video does work pretty well, right? It's nice to be able to, more or less look you in the eye and have a conversation with you now. But I think it's going to be a pretty welcome environment to, just talk. Let your hair down if you have hair. And I do think, relative to an innovation conversation like this that is captured and chronicled and stored in the ether, forever, or a written piece that we might do that's stored out there. These aren't quite Snapchat where I guess they do. I mean, they evaporate, right? It's a live commentary.
Unless the Chinese steal them.
Right, that's true. But I think it'll be a nice environment, I think, for us to have a little bit more of a free form dialogue. Maybe we get a little edgier, than we do in the past. I don't know that, we dropping F-bombs and whatnot here or there, but I don't think we'll be that edgy. But, we might be able to push the topics a little bit, maybe tread into some, areas that maybe we wouldn't want to tread if we knew it was going to be, captured and chronicled. So yeah, we'll see where it goes.
The other interesting thing will be if we're talking about build or buy, which is what we're going to talk about, at some level tomorrow, although who knows where the conversation will go. I mean, I know because I've gotten the emails, we're going to have some technology, entrepreneurs who are going to want to talk about their products. And while you and I are very careful here we're not selling anything other than it'll be interesting when people come in and say, hey, I'm doing this, and this is why I think it makes more sense to buy it. And you and I can actually challenge them, or retailers who come on can challenge them. It's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's kind of cool to get in fairly early on this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's for sure.
It's apparently the Kardashians, Elon Musk, and us. So there you go.
I heard Zuckerberg too. You know him.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of people on. So it's going to be interesting. So
yeah, it'll be fun.
So instead of today, normally I'd say I'll see you in 2 weeks for the innovation conversation. I'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Innovation conversation on Clubhouse.